across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I absolutely promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, December the 3rd. Here's what's coming up. The BBC, in all its lack of glory, prosecuting a 69-year-old pensioner with dementia for falling behind with his TV licence fee payments, banging on the poor old guy's door while he was watching reruns of Minder on ITV4, showing no mercy in the courts as he was ordered to pay £50 costs and, shockingly, a £26 victim surcharge. The victim being the cash-saturated state broadcaster that gets £3.8 billion a year from long-suffering Brits who are forced to fork out almost 180 quid for the privilege of watching low-quality B Boarfests. Doesn't this authoritarian tyranny just have to stop? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, Donald Trump names the 19 countries he's blacklisting for total travel bans. And in the wake of last week's Washington shooting by an Afghani migrant, the furious president says he's considering expanding the migration freeze to 30 nations. Since this is an issue of public safety on the streets in America, and we have a similar situation here, shouldn't Britain do the same? 0344 499 1000. In other news, Nigel Farage is reported to have told Reform UK party donors that an electoral deal with the Tories is inevitable. But Reform Deputy Richard Tice insists there's no chance of a pact. Does Reform even need the ailing remnants of the once mighty Conservatives? 0344 499 1000. Plus, I'll get Isabel Oakeshott's take on Lenny Henry's lefty-lovey army together. A bunch of showbiz stars who have vowed to stop Farage in his tracks and take on the forces of the so-called far right. Ooh, Halo's polished virtue duly signalled. Aren't they just wonderful? They don't care what you think. They don't like what you think. They just demand that you think the same as them. You know, because they're on the telly. Unbelievable. Drum roll, they're entertainers. Come on. 0344 499 1000. And in an hour or so, I'll be joined by Jennifer Melley, the poor nurse who has been suspended for a year and a half now after refusing to address a 6-foot-tall convicted paedophile bloke by his preferred female pronouns. When devout Christian Jennifer explained that calling a man she and her was against her faith, he twice called her the N-word. Nothing happened to him, he was just returned to prison. But 40-year-old mum Jennifer remains suspended after all this time. Why? Why won't her union, the Royal College of Nursing, intervene? Why doesn't Stand Up to Racism take up Jennifer's case? Is this NHS wokery gone mad to the point of sickness? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the scandal of the peppercorn royal rents goes way beyond Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Why are William, Kate, Edward and Sophie paying peanuts for their palatial mansions on the Crown Estate? Profits from this land near Windsor are supposed to go back to taxpayers. So are we letting these royals rip us off? 0344 499 1000. MPs are going to examine this, they're going to investigate this. We should get value for our money from the royal estates. If they don't pay proper rents, we're not getting value for money. There's a parliamentary inquiry going on right now. The free ride for the Royals looks to be coming to an end. It's hitting the buffers. 03444991000. Plus, why is Southport murderer Axel Rudakabana getting sleeping pills to help him slumber in Belmarsh prison? Do we care if this teen fiend is suffering from insomnia? I rather like that idea. 03444991000. Apparently, his fellow inmates believe he's saving them up. He's hiding them, and he's going to try and take an overdose and commit suicide. So that's another reason not to give him sleeping pills. But why give him them at all? I don't care if he can't sleep, do you? And finally, as Jaguar ditches the designer behind the weird pink brand relaunch that sent the car giant into freefall, why do companies keep going woefully woke when all the evidence proves that if you go woke, you go broke? Why do so many corporations seem to suffer from profit-destroying woke mind virus syndrome? What is wrong with them? 03444991000. There are many other companies who have made the same mistake. Remember Bud Light? They nearly went bankrupt because they got a so-called trans woman, a bloke in a dress, Dylan Mulvaney, to become their face of Bud Light. Absolutely ridiculous. Company nearly crashed because of it. Why did they do that? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And let's go straight over to my first guest. She is Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
You had a bit of a moment there, didn't you?
And
you were
like,
not sure what night it is.
Yeah, but well, I took my time because I've quite often actually said the wrong day. I've done the wrong date before, so I didn't want to get it wrong, so I just bided my time for just a little while. Wednesday, I got it right, folks. That's a great start to the show, right? Let's talk first of all. This is a story that I'm sure you'll agree, to me, Isabel, puts the BBC in the bad light it deserves to be in. This is shocking. This is shocking. They are still, that lot, the BBC, prosecuting thousands of people every year for the non-payment of their TV licenses. It's currently standing at around just below 180 quid a year. I say it's not even anything like value for money. But anyway, this is a 69-year-old pensioner. He's not named, but it's a true story. Right, he's got dementia. The BBC has just convicted him for prosecuted him for failing to maintain his TV licence payments. He was doing it on a monthly basis. On a visit to his home in Bradford, poor old boy was caught watching reruns of Minder on ITV4. He wrote to the court to explain that he had messed up his bills and was getting into debt due to his ailing mental capacity. He was suffering from dementia. In a bid to sort her father's life out, his daughter got power of attorney, but amid the chaos that she was trying to sort out, she missed the TV licence bill. So she wrote to the court as well, no dice. In the end, he was persuaded to plead guilty. His plea for mercy basically fell on deaf ears. He was ordered to pay £50 in costs. And this is the shocker, Isabel. He was also ordered to pay a £26 victim surcharge. The victim being the cash-saturated state broadcaster, the behemoth of the BBC, which gets £3.8 billion a year from licence fee money every year. 3.8 billion is taking £26 victim surcharge from a poor old boy with dementia. Now, if that doesn't sum up what's wrong with the BBC and its culture, I don't know. This has got to stop. The last recorded numbers, they used to be prosecuting hundreds of thousands a year before COVID. That has dropped dramatically. The last recorded figures were 47,692 prosecutions in 2022. And here's another disturbing element of all this. Due to women being more likely to be at home when the inspectors call, around 75% of all the prosecutions for non-payment of the TV licence are women. And if you keep refusing to pay, if you just say, no, I'm not going to pay, if you keep refusing, it is still possible you can go to jail. It's not so long ago that, a handful of people went to jail every year for not paying this ludicrous, anachronistic licence fee. But the BBC should hang its head in shame that a poor old boy, 69 years old, with dementia, not only had to pay £50 cost after pleading guilty. Frankly, they should have dropped the case, shouldn't they? This is he's got dementia. But then they accept from him a £26 victim surcharge. Poor BBC, such a victim. It's disgusting, isn't it?
It really is. And actually, this is something I feel strongly about because I myself have quite often been on the receiving end of the most unbelievably aggressive demands for payment of TV licenses at properties that don't have televisions, at properties that are actually unoccupied. There was a period a couple of years ago where I was doing up a property on the Isle of Wight and it was empty. And I mean, there was no furniture in there. The place was unlivable in. And yet the letters would pile up and they would get more and more aggressive, saying, we know you've got we're sure you've got a TV and we're sure you're up to no good watching it illegally. And if you don't respond, we're going to send round the bailiffs. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
The pursuit of ordinary people and the level of disbelief that the licensing authorities have that you might not actually have a television. Some of us actually choose not to have a TV, not to actually watch your programmes, BBC. And it is so reprehensible to not exercise some sensible, compassionate discretion in cases like this elderly gentleman who clearly had many much bigger things to worry about in his life, as did his poor daughter. So many of us know how damn hard it is to keep the show on the road, looking after an elderly parent that's becoming ever needier and more vulnerable. The last thing on earth such a daughter would need was the trauma, the ordeal of having to cope with this court prosecution over a measly few quid that makes no difference whatsoever to the giant, squanderous, unethical, biased BBC. Truly appalling and so predictably disappointing that they should choose to pursue a case like this.
And so authoritarian. It's an authoritarian kind of tyranny that absolutely has to stop. The BBC must not be allowed to prosecute people for not paying this stupid, anachronistic, outmoded TV licence. Nowhere else in the world are people required by law to pay for their television entertainment. This is something weird out of another age, and it has to stop. The BBC, though, BBC executives, when they're not busy sort of defaming and libeling the President of the United States and screwing up in spades minute after minute after minute, staggering from one crisis to scandal to the next, making a complete mess of everything. The only thing they don't make is good programmes. When they're not doing that, their massive obsession, the Director General and that kind of level of executives, their obsession is holding on to the TV licence fee. That's what they negotiate with governments about. That's what the Royal Charter's about, because they get their free £3.8 billion a year. And they're obsessed with not losing that. But I say it's time for it to stop. Partly because we can't have this anymore. We can't have pensioners with dementia being prosecuted for not paying this stupid licence. And it's time for the BBC to be told, since you're so fond of telling us how you're the greatest broadcaster in the world, how your programmes are unrivaled on all the four corners of the earth, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's rubbish, but that's what they think. Since you think that, why don't you just stand on your own 2 feet? Just turn yourself into a subscription service like Netflix, and your programmes, as you seem to believe, are so great that of course everybody will cough up. Or, like the commercial channels, take adverts. You know, why have you got a divine right not to take commercials? Stand on, make television programmes that people want to watch, and you will be a profitable organisation. I don't want to get rid of the BBC at all. I just don't want to pay for it anymore. I don't see why we should. It's anachronistic. It's a thing of the past. It's got to stop, if only for the sake of this poor old 69-year-old pensioner with dementia and many other old folk. When I talked just now about how many women, 75% of people prosecuted for non-payment of TV licenses are women. Many of them are old women who live on their own as well, and they tend to forget this kind of thing. This is just wrong. This is state tyranny. It's got to stop.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, it does have to stop. It's gone on for so many years. I mean, they've changed their tactics for bullying people into buying the license, and you know, they've got more, I think they've got ever more heavy-handed, and I just think change is coming for the BBC. This can't go on. You know, the model just, I don't think it's acceptable to people anymore. I haven't actually seen any polling on it, though I'm sure it exists, but I think the polling would show that most people like the idea of the BBC. They just don't want to have to be forced to pay for it, and I think it would be very healthy for the BBC to just have a go at standing on its own 2 feet like the rest of us have to, and soon realise that, you know, you can only carry on as long as what you're producing is actually marketable and people are prepared to pay more than it cost you to produce.
I mean, the commercial imperative, which the BBC is of course spared, the commercial imperative delivers quality because you have to make good stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it all has to be high art or Shakespeare. I mean, you have to make good quality popular programmes, you have to make good quality drama, good quality comedies, good quality documentaries. You've got to make good quality television, then your audience will come to you. And you make money out of that, like Netflix, like ITV, like Channel 4. The BBC is spared this, and because it doesn't have the commercial imperative, the quality of its programmes is down the toilet. They're terrible these days. It's got very few programmes at all that are ever worth watching.
Well, it's not just, of course, it's not just TV, it's also radio, and I think some of the radio output is worth listening to. I mean, there's plenty there to like, but, you know, that's not what our objection is it? You know, there are good quality programmes, and there are things that I might pay for, but I just think competition is a great thing, and they need to feel the heat a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. BBC Radio, take adverts. You know, BBC TV subscription. Be like the others. You know, why should the BBC be spared this? These people, the public sector BBC employees, they're obsessed with it. They must be spared the vulgar commercial imperative. You know, they must get them public money so they can do what they like and pay so many of themselves like £300,000 and £400,000 a year for jobs like Director of Vision. What does that even mean? Do you know what I mean?
What does it mean?
It's
no
ridiculous.
Idea.
It's ridiculous. And they was Director of Television. Well, you know, isn't that the
whole thing? I mean,
it's the Director General's
kind
job,
of core
isn't it?
offer.
Yeah. Shouldn't the Director General be doing the vision? Shouldn't he be, or she be, the person in charge of quality, in charge of television? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, folks, do you agree with Isabel and I that it is time for the BBC licence fee, TV licence fee, to take a bath, to be shown the red card, to be axed? 0344 499 1000. Next up, let's talk about Donald Trump's immigration freeze, his crackdown on migrants in the wake of last week's shocking shooting in Washington by an Afghani migrant gunning down two poor National Guards soldiers, one of whom is now dead, the other one's fighting for his life. Terrible story. Donald Trump is furious, and he's just going to close the borders to now 19 countries, maybe 30 soon. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense, so head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott, and this is an international story. We're talking about the United States of America, where Donald Trump and his administration, Isabel, are reacting with furious force in the wake of last week's tragedy in Washington when an Afghani migrant, 29 years old, gunned down two poor young National Guardsmen. One was a 20-year-old girl who died holding her father's hand in hospital. The president's furious. Yesterday, before they named the countries, the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, said this. She posted this on social media. I just met with the president. I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them. Not one. The president picked up on this today and actually started naming. He named 19 countries, but this may well soon expand to 30 countries where there's going to be a total travel ban, total migration ban. He's not messing around. Let's have a little listen to the president in action on this issue.
If they can't love our country, we don't want them. Earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, 2 members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C., were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. I can report tonight that, based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation.
The fact is, Isabel, we have a similar national security threat, exactly the same, maybe even worse. I mean, because we continue to let thousands and thousands of unknown, mainly young men, across our borders day in, week out. Some of the countries that this ban, which is an all-out travel ban, migration ban, applies to citizens of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, and so on and so forth. He's saying there's 19 countries, many of them very familiar to us. These are the countries that supply us with our constant intake of foreign migrants, you know, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, so on and so forth. He's also saying that 1.5 million people who have asylum applications pending can pretty much forget about it. The 50,000 who received asylum grants under the Biden administration can forget about it. And those awaiting citizenship ceremonies can also probably forget about it. They're going to be seriously vetted. Now, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's a bit over the top. Well, is it? Is it? My question to you is, when you see America, I mean, this is very Trumpian, very dramatic, very forceful, no messing about, never likely to happen in that form here. But shouldn't we be at least travelling down the same road? We're not doing anything about our threat to national security and our threat to the safety of the people of this country.
You know what I'm feeling right now? I am feeling jealous. I am feeling jealous that America has that kind of leadership, because that is what we need in the UK. You know, enough already. It's gone so far beyond enough already with these particular groups of people who are high risk to our country. And it is actually impossible to imagine any politician in the UK saying the things that Trump and the Homeland Security advisor said. Can you imagine sort of doing that blanket ban? You know, it just would not be politically possible in the environment that we have, in our political culture, as it were. But is it that crazy? Well, no, I don't think it is. But the truth is, we do the precise opposite. You know, the dodgier, the more dangerous, the more different the country. I'm going to take Sudan as an example. The less likely we are to send them back from whence they came. You know, we basically have a kind of blanket ban on returning anyone to Sudan, a country that has absolutely nothing in common, really, with our own culture and values. I mean, you know, I'm sure somebody will be able to come up with some things of points of commonality, but the chances of Sudanese refugees or economic opportunists being able to contribute a lot to our country in general are pretty low, I would say. And yet we will never return them under the current system because we consider Sudan too dangerous to return them to, ignoring the fact that they've passed through umpteen other countries before they ever got anywhere near Britain. So I think millions of people in the UK now wish for a much harder line approach on all of this. And, there's something very appealing about the simplicity of just saying, you know what, we're not going to take anyone from Eritrea. Sorry, we're just not doing it. We're not taking anyone from Chad. We're not taking anyone from Sudan. We're not taking anyone from Iran. I mean, Iran is one of the most hostile regimes in the world. The Iranian regime is not our friend. And yet we're allowing literally thousands of Iranians to come to the UK. Now, some of them will be genuine political asylum seekers. They will be fleeing persecution. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to take them. I mean, there are other countries rather nearer Iran than the UK. So I wholeheartedly sympathise with where the US president is coming from on this, and I think there'd be many of our listeners will feel the same.
Unsurprisingly, a lot of the president and Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary's fury is directed towards Afghani migrants. They are the people they want to take a really close look at. They want to re-vet every Afghani migrant in the States because, of course, the 29-year-old who ran down the streets and opened fire just yards from the White House last week was an Afghani migrant. He arrived, of course, under Joe Biden's Operation Allies Welcome scheme, which was very similar to our Operation Resettlement scheme, which was the repatriation, or the patriation, if you like, of the Afghani people who claimed to have helped and collaborated with the British and Americans during the long Afghan war. I mean, we're pretty certain that many of these people go, oh yeah, well, you helped us in the war so you can come in. We're pretty certain, we didn't check, they just turned up. Anyway, the net result of this, Operation Afghanistan Resettlement, we have 35,000 Afghanis in this country due to that. These were these people being flown in secretly because the government, the Tory government, outrageously took out an injunction to make sure that the electorate didn't know about their howling balls up because there'd been a data breach. So the Taliban got hold of a long list of every Afghani who allegedly helped us during those dark years. Anyway, so 35,000. There's also another 35,000 awaiting either have been granted asylum or awaiting asylum. So over not very many years, 70,000 Afghani migrants have been allowed into this country, about whom most of them we don't know anything about. So President Trump and Kristi Noem are recognising a serious, clear and present danger here. We're not, are we?
No, not at all. I mean, when you say we don't know anything about them, we know perhaps the most important thing, which is that they come from a country with very, very different cultural and religious values and norms to our own. And we know from so many court cases what a problem this is. You know, we are bringing people in who have been raised in an environment where violence is a much more routine way of dealing with things. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. You know, there are many countries that don't benefit from the kind of rule of law that one would expect in more developed countries and in the UK, for example. It's just a whole different setup. So when you bring these people over asking very few questions about their background, and some of them are genuinely traumatized, they've come from horrific situations, and that plays out. There's a price to pay, and we know this from recent absolutely most horrific things that have happened. It's not always the first generation that gets itself into trouble. You know, look at the Axel Rudikabana case, look at the background there. You know, the horrors of the Rwandan genocide absolutely played a role in his psyche. And it wasn't him. He wasn't born in Rwanda, but the parents were. So you're importing an awful lot of problems. Now, it's right to help people. Of course, we're not just going to say, shut the doors, no one should ever come in again. You know, we British, we don't care about anyone who's fleeing war and terror. The British people do care about that. They do want to help, but they don't want to be totally indiscriminate about it.
No, they don't. And what Trump and Kristi Noem are basically saying is, that, look, you know, with all due respect to what you've just been saying, Isabel, they're just saying that our first priority is the safety of Americans, and we believe that this mass migration, all these people in our country that have come from places like Somalia and Afghanistan and Sudan pose a threat to our people, and we're not going to have it anymore. Now, like yourself, you know, we're British and European and sort of a bit more effete than President Trump, if you like. I would probably not do it in quite such a kind of a dramatic way, but I think we should certainly be thinking along the same lines. And the worrying thing is it's not even remotely occurring to our government. They're basically saying, oh, keep on coming. Yes, we'll find you some more hotels. Ooh, we're going to convert some more military bases. Great. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. We're going to give you some free money benefits, you know, free food, doctors, dentists, and so on and so forth. So it's just going to keep on happening here. We need more of this American attitude, but we're not going to get it. Let me know what you think about that, folks. 03444991000. We'll come back to home next, and we'll talk about this, well, alleged potential pact between Reform UK and the Tories. Nigel Farage has reportedly told party donors that he expects Reform UK to forge an election deal with the Conservatives before the next general election. Meanwhile, other members of Reform UK don't seem to be so sure. I'm not sure about this story, but it warrants discussion. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Yeah, Isabel, the story in the Financial Times today to say that Nigel Farage has been telling party donors that he expects Reform UK to do a deal with the Tories before the next general election. I'm not sure what will be in it for the Reform UK party, if you ask me, but he went on today to say, I would never do a deal with a party that I don't trust. No deals, just a reverse takeover. So he's saying that he wouldn't mind assimilating the Tories as long as he was completely in charge and they did what he told them. But I can't see Kemi Badenoch going along with that. No love lost between Kemi and Nigel. I suppose we should say you have some skin in this game. This is your partner, but this is not an issue of party bias or anything, folks. This is Richard Tice, who's the deputy leader of the party, talking to Jeremy Kyle on Talk this morning.
In one sentence, with one question, imagine I'm Noel Edmonds, Richard Tice. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
I'm just trying to get to grips with imagining that Jeremy Kyle is Noel Edmonds.
The head spinner.
that notwithstanding, I mean, Richard being very, very firm about that. Farage just saying, well, as long as they want to just become part of reform, I'll go along with that. But I honestly, the way things are going, I don't see that the Reform UK will necessarily need the help of the dwindling Tories, do you?
I think I just need to be really clear about something. And I think Nigel has been repeatedly pretty clear about this, but there are a lot of people who've got agendas to damage reform at the moment, and they know that a story like this is damaging to reform. So let's just say it again. Nigel Farage despises the Tory party. He doesn't despise individuals in it. You know, I'm sure there are some good relationships there, and indeed he's recently been accepting a lot of defections. But that is not the same as feeling any real affinity. Let me be even stronger than that. I mean, he hates the Tory party machine.
Yeah.
And thoroughly and rightly distrusts them. You know, the party leadership is so bruised from the arrogant way that the Tory party has treated reform and its predecessor parties over the years. There is no way there's going to be some kind of electoral pact, you know, right now or even right up near the last minute. You know, it's just not what is on the agenda. What Nigel Farage is trying to do is destroy the Tory party. And as you rightly say, you know, the way things are going, the great hope is there won't be any need to do any pacts with anybody. Reform is aiming to form a majority at the next election. And Reform wants to be able to do that without any Tory party involvement. Tories can do what they like, but Reform doesn't trust them. There's terrible bad blood history there.
Yeah,
and I mean that really ought to be the end of it. But don't underestimate, you know, how bumpy this is already getting for Reform, for the party leadership. You know, the more that the left see Reform's trajectory, and the Labour Party, we know, is sinking fast with a threat from all sides, really, the more the operation to destabilise Reform will step up. And you know what? The level of hostile scrutiny that there is of Reform and all its people and everything it says and does is absolutely out of all proportion to the level of scrutiny of the other parties. And this is what the party is facing. And you know what? It's a measure of Nigel Farage's success.
Also, Nigel Farage, whatever you think of him, he's a shrewd and clever man, and he knows that probably the majority of his fervent supporters are disillusioned Tories, people who feel they were betrayed for 14 years by successive pretend Conservatives who are actually nothing much more than Labour light. You know, migrant-friendly, net zero obsessives like Boris Johnson, liberal idiots like David Cameron, disasters like Theresa May, and, you know, the nice but ineffective Rishi Sunak. You know, that's why they've gone to a party resolve. So if Nigel Farage turned around and said, hey, we're going to join up with that party you left in dismay, that would be counterproductive, to say the least. I was in this very studio when Jonathan Gullis was standing in for obviously former Tory MP, he was standing in for Ian Collins here. This is 2 weeks ago, and I sort of jokingly said, come on in, Jonathan, when are you going to make the jump? When are you going to join Reform? Because Jonathan was nothing if not on the right of the Tory party, and he sort of joked and joked, ah, ha, ha. But then he turned to me, he said, so I thought, hang on, something's going to happen. He turned to me, he said, they're finished. He said they're finished. Everybody I speak to just says they feel utterly betrayed by the Tories. I said, so seriously, when are you going to leave? And he said, watch this space. And of course, this week we found out that he's made the leap. Here's Robert Jenrick with his take on the Reform Pact talk.
My party's leader, Kemi Badenoch, and Nigel Farage, leader Reform, have both been very clear that they don't want a deal. So there's not going to be a deal. That's the end of the story. And frankly, the British public, my constituents, the listeners and viewers to your show, are much more interested in what's going on in the country right now. Bills going up, cost of living, life being tough, Rachel Reeves wrecking their livelihoods with their ever-increasing taxes than speculating about this kind of stuff. And
no, I know that, mate, but the one thing...
My advice as a friend is get Nigel Farage on your show. You know, I can't answer what he may have said.
No, in
the city.
No, I know that, but what I guess I'm saying is, and you know how much I respect you, there are people texting this morning saying, for the good of the country, would that not be, maybe further down the line, something that would need to be discussed to ensure we don't get 5 more years of this disgusting, despicable government? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I know where the question comes from, and it's asked because people are sick to death of this Labour government, just want to see the back of it and want a good government after the next general election. So I understand the motivation behind the question and the sentiment that there is amongst many people in the country, but both Nigel and Kemi have been clear there's not going to be a deal, so there isn't going to be a deal.
So I'd say a big thanks there to Sooty, Sweep and Robert Jenrick. But seriously, I think that closes this discussion. You heard it, both sides of the fence, and Isabel, who's quite well connected to Reform UK. It's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. I say it's certainly not going to happen sooner. I think it's very unlikely later. I think Reform UK won't need the Tories, and they say that after the next election, maybe the Tories will be reduced to 7 seats. So, you know, don't team up with the losers. Stay with the winners. Right, Isabel, let's go to break, and then we're going to talk about a story that we covered last week, but I'd be very keen to get your take on it. That is Lenny Henry's Lovey Brigade together. They're going to fight reform, and they're going to stop Nigel Farage, and they're going to put a damn stop to those far-right street protests. They don't like the right to protest. Oh, no. Those loveys, they're very left-wing, virtue signalling, halo polishing. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I don't know if we've got some footage. I've always been intrigued by Pedo Island, Jeffrey Epstein's sinister-looking island in the middle of the Caribbean. It's quite near the Dominican Republic. It never looked nice. You know, the Caribbean always looks nice. Not that island. It looked like frightening. Anyway, amazing inside footage has emerged. In one room, there's a dental chair. There it is. Doesn't look nice, does it? Looks kind of. It looks like something where the evil guys live in a James Bond movie or something. Anyway, in the middle of it, for example, there's a sort of dental room, a dentist chair, and on the walls are all these men's face masks. It's very, very weird. We'll show you the full film a little later in the show. In the meantime, let's go back to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, I wanted to get your take on this. Is Lenny Henry's new Together alliance. They're a bunch of showbiz lovies and left-wing lunatics devoted to stopping the rise of Reform UK, Nigel Farage and far-right street protests. They don't like the right to protest, these totalitarian, tyrannical, intolerant lovies, these showbiz lefties. Anyway, you got Sir Lenny. Yeah, he's the guy that wants to us to pay £18 trillion worth of reparations for slavery to people of colour, which would be great. Would send about probably 3/4 of the population into starvation. But as long as Sir Lenny can polish his halo and signal his virtue, who cares? Who cares about the country going bankrupt? But now he's formed the Together movement, Together Alliance. His other virtue signalling star friends include the singer Paloma Faith, of course, Charlotte Church, former Doctor Who star Christopher Eccleston. This is your favourite one, I know that. I know you're a big fan, Isabel. Little Mix singer Lee Ann Pinnock. No, me neither. Maxine Peake, Steve Coogan, Kneecap, of course, and Frankie Boyle. More than 50 organisations are also involved, including Jezza's, old Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party, the Communist Party, Palestine Solidarity Campaign and Stand Up to Racism, the National Education Union and the TUC, not forgetting the 30 MPs who have signed up. This absolutely guarantees Nigel Farage is going to march straight into Downing Street, doesn't it?
Well, I hope so. But when I saw the adverts for this, I just thought, I honestly felt like we wound the clock back 10 years and that this is Brexit all over again. It's the same kind of cast of characters. I mean, the only thing is, where's Emma Thompson? I mean, I'm sure she's there.
Oh, don't worry, she'll turn up. Yeah, she'll definitely turn up.
I mean, it's just the whole anti-Brexit thing all over again. And how did that work out for you guys? Didn't work out too well, did it? And it's just these lovies. You're just sort of left thinking, have they got nothing better to do than go on these virtue signalling parades? And what do they mean, the far right? Haven't they understood how triggering that is, how it actually galvanizes anyone that doesn't think, we should have no borders at all and refugees welcome, all come one, come all? It just galvanizes those people and reinforces their determination to get this lot out and have a whole different setup.
Yeah, as in America, when all the Hollywood stars backed Biden, the American people just said, sod off, we're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
I think that the same thing will happen here. But what worries me about this, all these showbiz stars, they're perfectly entitled to their political views, their opinions and their outlook, their worldview. But I do think it's a misuse of their platform because, you know, they're famous, they're on telly. People tend to look up to people who are on TV, and they might be influenced by this. And also the other thing that occurs to me about this is that their fans, millions of their fans, you know, probably are reform supporters. And these people, these celebrities, these entertainments, these singers, dancers, jokers, well, I say joker, of course, Lenny Henry hasn't been funny for about half a century, but these singers, dancers, entertainers, you know, they despise what so many of their fans believe in, what they think, what they're at. It's like, no, you're Neanderthals. And the real story about these showbiz stars is they can afford to be socialists. They can afford to do this. And I just think, generally, look, you have every right to your political opinions. Don't impose them on the nation. Don't impose them on your fans, because I don't think that is right. I think it's a misuse of the influence these people carry.
Well, I just think that in most cases they're just really ill-informed for precisely the reason that you just touched on there, that they are living very elite, very cut-off lifestyles. You know, it is of course the case that a lot of politicians, probably most politicians, are far wealthier. They come from a far less troubled or difficult background than many of the people they represent. But they have been forced generally to knock on a lot of doors and spend a lot of time in the toughest parts of the areas that they represent. The same can't be said for actors and TV personalities and other lovies who do exist in a bit of a gilded bubble. And that's why I find it quite frustrating when these people choose to pontificate and lecture and be very sanctimonious on their high horses about where politics should be. I just think that it comes from a place of quite some ignorance.
Do you know Lenny Henry's very first starring role, what the show he starred on first in his long and distinguished career?
I don't.
The Black and White Minstrel Show.
Oh, right.
It's true. It's true.
Okay.
I mean, he said that he was very young and it seemed like a big break. I remember my mum used to love the Black and White
Those
Minstrel.
were different times.
It was the biggest show on TV where people used to wear blackface and do a kind of Al Jolson. It was a very strange show. Probably the show from TV history that is least likely to be revived. I don't think it will be on again.
I think that's one to forget.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pinpoint Lenny about that. He was just a kid, but it's an interesting pop fact about his long and interesting career. Isabel, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Brilliant stuff. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talk's international editor. Now, after the break, Jennifer Mele will be in here. She's a long-suffering poor nurse who was suspended from her job about a year and a half ago for refusing to address a paedophile bloke by his preferred pronouns of she and her. She wouldn't do it, and she's been suspended ever since. Why can't she go back to work? It's just ridiculous. We will talk to Jennifer in the studio after the news. Stay where you are.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, it's a real honour and a privilege to have in the studio Jennifer Melley. Now, she's been here once before to tell her harrowing and disgraceful story. Not that she's disgraceful, the story is disgraceful. It was now about 18 months ago, May 2024. She was a devoted nurse of 12 years experience working at a huge hospital sort of in South London, south of Wimbledon, Morden if you know around there. It's called St Helier Hospital. It's massive. Now Jennifer was working there and a prisoner was brought in for treatment. He's a 6-foot guy. He's a child sex abuser. He was a paedophile, but he needed medical treatment. He came into the ward where Jennifer was working and he demanded to be known by his pronouns of she, his preferred pronouns, she and he, she and her. Jennifer, because she's a devout Christian, said, well, that goes against my faith, but, you know, tell me your Christian name and I'll call you that. And so he got heated about this and called her the N-word 3 times. And as a result of her refusing to use his preferred pronouns, she was suspended, and now she's been off work now for 1.5 years because the NHS, the authorities say that she sort of breached her data security agreement inherent in her employment, because after a while, frustrated by this situation, just wants to go back to work. You know, this isn't just a job, this is nursing, this is a calling. She wanted to go back and do her duty as a nurse. So she went to the press and said, you know, I want to tell my story. And so now, you know, she's apparently she's breached some code or other. She's still off work. Now, the Royal College of Nursing, which is the nursing union, they don't seem to want to intervene. Why? And also, it has been suggested that Stand Up to Racism should take up Jennifer's cause. No word from them whatsoever. We phoned them today. They didn't even get back to us. Jennifer, how are you feeling now after, you know, still, I mean, Jennifer's still on the payroll, but they won't let you go back to work. How does that make you feel?
It's been terrible. It's very traumatizing, and not knowing what the future holds, not knowing whether I will be dismissed, what their plans. It's been just ongoing meetings after meetings since June, when we last had the last meeting. We've not had any
quite a long
feedback.
time ago.
Yeah,
it's
been a long time,
ago, yeah.
And it's just been it's a way of punishing me, a way I suppose they wish that I would resign. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. But this is my career. I worked so hard to achieve this, and I feel let down by the NHS.
But why would you resign? You haven't done anything wrong. I mean, why would they expect you to resign?
I suppose they don't want me there.
I think it's this, Jennifer. Right? They're framing it all up that you broke your data security agreement by talking to the press. That's what they're saying. Oh, this is your crime. I don't think it is that. You know what the NHS is like. It's terribly, terribly woke. Your crime, as far as they're concerned, the bosses of the NHS is concerned, was refusing to call this bloke, this guy, this man, by his preferred pronouns. Now, and that's because that goes against your faith. Now, you know, I would respect that in any circumstances if he was a normal bloke, but was a prisoner. He's a convicted paedophile,
Absolutely.
a child sex abuser. They are prioritising him and his woke requirements about his pronouns over your career and your life, to be honest with you.
It's quite very disturbing and traumatizing that they don't understand the mental torture I have to endure and have my children have to face watching me crash down.
You got 3 children?
Yeah,
right?
3 children.
How old are your kids again, Jennifer?
My first one, she's 23. I had her when I was about 18, 19, yes. Yes, the second one is 21 and my son is 18.
Right. So
yes.
So do they still live with you? Or?
Yeah, they still live with me, yeah.
So, I mean, they've presumably been a source of strength for you?
Yes, but my daughter has been really very affected because she did pediatric nursing. And because of that, she did only 1 year after her qualification. And she resigned because she couldn't face to see her mom going through this and wondered what she'd face in the profession like this. So
she refused. She resigned in anger about the way you were being treated.
She's more or less upset and also scared for our future. So she's looking back to go to do her master's in something else.
And why haven't you remember the Royal College of Nursing? Why haven't they intervened? Why haven't they done anything? That's your union.
That's my union, but I don't have a clue why they refuse to support me. You know, I try my best to try to get in touch, but I've been let down each time. They would say, oh, someone is on leave, somebody will get back to you. But I was going through anxiety of the fear of having to face the nursing board and having to face the trust for dismissal.
So when was the last time you spoke to the RCN?
It was more recently, about 4 or 6 weeks ago, when we eventually had a meeting with the RCN.
Okay, so what did they tell you? Why haven't they intervened? What was their reason for not intervening to help you? You're a member of the damn union.
They refused to comment.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, they refused
to
comment.
You went for a meeting and they would not comment.
Yeah, they would not comment, but...
Unbelievable.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've been in touch or if you've heard from Stand Up to Racism at all?
No, haven't heard from...
What do you feel about this? Being abandoned by people who should help you?
I feel really abandoned, especially by the NHS, by the NMC, by, you know, as a nation, as a whole, the government, because Claire, one of the MPs I saw a couple of months ago, she sent an email. She said she would get in touch with the trust and also with the nursing board. But prior to that, we are still waiting for the amendments for the guidelines.
So you're now, I mean, you came in not that long after you first got suspended, didn't you? Came in here. So I guess that might have been, what now, a year or so ago? I can tell that you're a lot more upset about this than you were then, because then we both agreed what a ridiculous situation this was. Surely it will be sorted out soon. I think you, the same as me, thought, well, can't be too long, I'll be back at work. Here you are a year later. I can tell you're a lot more upset about it than you were then, because this has now become protracted.
Yes.
And I sense you can see no end.
I feel very drained.
Yeah.
It really did. I feel really drained having to wait and wait. And I mean, I have a meeting coming up soon next week. That's to be like the final decision. So we don't know the outcome yet.
But as far as you can work out, your official crime, if I can put it that way, is this breaching of your security
the
data.
NMC code of conduct and confidentiality.
Talking to the media.
Yeah, talking to the media.
But you agree with me, don't you? You sense that this is wokery. This is because you break the sacred NHS code and refuse to call a bloke, a man, a male, she or her.
I think more is to do with my faith as well as a Christian.
Because that it was against your faith.
Yeah.
Just to explain, Jennifer, again. Let's get back to the when it all happened. This guy came in one evening. Take the story up from there.
Yes, he came in to the ward under urology, and was very outraged, very angry, wants to self-discharge, and this nurse was looking after her was really very scared as well. She came very shaken, and she said, "Jennifer, I need help. This man wants to self-discharge. The patient wants to self-discharge. I need help." And I said, "Okay, have you found the doctor?" And I said, I'll come and help you." And she phoned the doctor. So luckily the doctor phoned back. When she blipped the doctor phoned back, and she passed me the phone, and I spoke to the doctor and said, "Mr. So-and-so would like to self-discharge."
Hang on, wasn't he a prisoner?
It was a prisoner.
Bit difficult to see.
Yes.
I bet he wanted to self-discharge.
Yeah. And being, under urology, it's best to, to address just, we have different doctors, gynaes and urologists.
Were prison officers with him?
Yeah, he had 2 prison guards.
Oh, I
trained.
see. So basically he just sort of said, "I want to self-discharge, I'll go off with the prison officers," right?
Yeah.
And anyway, take up the story. Sorry.
Yeah, so he was chained to the prison guards, both hands and foot. So he overheard me on the phone speaking to the doctor and saying, "Mr. So-and-so would like to self-discharge. Is there anything else you'd like us to do before, sending him?" He overheard, got outraged, and began to call me racial slurs, abusing.
3 times he called
you. Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you before?
No.
What was that like? That must have been shocking.
I was very shaken when I looked at him, the size of him, very huge, about 6 foot tall. He got very outraged, really launching and wanting to hit me, and very just restrained by the prison guards. Yeah. I was very shaken, and in the end, he decided to stay, and we had fairly a good night shift. Yeah, a good night shift afterwards. After that, even asked for pain relief, which I did offer. Yeah. We did offer to him. And I was just quite shocked when I received a phone call that there was a complaint of misgendering
from him. He complained that you
misgendering.
So as far as the NHS or your hospital authorities were concerned, you misgendering this guy, this prisoner, this paedophile, was much more serious than him calling you the
N-word. Much more serious than him, calling me, racial slurs and attempting to hit me,
And after you got this call about misgendering, how soon after that were you suspended?
Immediately I was redeployed to a different department.
Right.
Yeah. So I said I wasn't allowed to go back to that ward anymore. Right. So I was redeployed to a different department, and shortly after, we had several disciplinary meetings, and then where they try to to pressure me to say if an incident like this would occur again, what would you still not comply? And I said, no, it's against my Christian belief. I wouldn't refer to, a man as a woman, or a woman as a man. It's against my faith.
But didn't you offer to call him or her, whatever, him, by a Christian name or something like that?
Yes, by his first name on the board. Yeah, but the panels they thought. Not complying to the Nursing and Midwifery Council Code of Conduct, so they referred me to the NMC.
So after what is the NMC?
The nursing board.
Okay, okay. So after you were transferred to another ward, you were then referred to the NMC. When were you suspended? How soon after your encounter with this racist paedophile?
First, before they suspended me, they actually took off my post on that where I was redeployed. they employed someone else to take my place. And because of that, they wanted me to now go back to where I was before, and that was so traumatizing for me to go where the incident occurred. I said, I can't go back there. I was doing very well where I was before. And so I was forced to go off sick, as a way to look for another area for me to work in. So I was off sick for work-related stress, and you know, because I had nowhere to work. They had now replaced my post with another nurse, which was a form of punishment to me as well.
And since then, you haven't been allowed to go back to work?
Well, eventually they found me somewhere else in outpatient. So yeah. So from there, that's where I got the sack. I was suspended from there. Shortly after 4 weeks of being there, about 6 weeks of being in outpatient.
Outpatient, yeah.
Yes.
So then they said, sorry, when you misgendered that guy, you got to go. Then later on you spoke, I believe it's to the Mail on Sunday, and the rest is history. So here you are now. And I mean, to sum up your story, the NHS prioritised the needs and the desires and the welfare of a paedophile racist over your welfare.
Yes, which is really it's very surprising.
That's a very nice way of putting it, Jennifer. And tell me about the Christian organisation that's been helping you.
Yes, Christian Concerns, you know.
Christian Concern UK.
They just lit my spirit. They just gave me hope, and I thank God for them. They've been amazing. You know, they took up the case with the Darlington nurses, being my union, which are now supporting me with this in this journey. Yes.
Well, listen, this show, I'm calling on the Royal College of Nursing. To look after your member, this nurse Jennifer Melee here. This is ridiculous. Why won't you tell her? Why won't intervene to help her? She's a nurse. She's been suspended because the NHS, her hospital, prioritised the welfare of a 6-foot-tall paedophile racist over her welfare. What kind of a union are you? I'm also calling on Stand Up to Racism to get involved. You know, if you're not going to try to stamp out this kind of racism, what's the point? What is the point of you? We know you've been alerted to this, but you don't seem to care. Stand up to racism. Here's a case of racism. And what are you doing about it? It's just ridiculous, Jennifer. So when you said you've got one more meeting coming up very soon with the hospital, is it?
Yes, with the hospital.
And when is that again?
It's on next week, Tuesday, so hopefully this will be the end, whether they'll take me.
They've got to let you back to work. This is just ridiculous. I know what's going on here. You know what's going on. This isn't about you talking to the press. You talk to the press out of frustration because clearly you have been done wrong and you weren't getting any justice elsewhere. This isn't what this is about.
And
it's because you broke the golden NHS woke rule. This bloke, this paedophile, this racist wants to be called she and her, and you refuse to do that because of your faith. That is no reason to lose your job and your career. Tell me, just before you go, Jennifer, thanks so much for coming in again, what does nursing mean to you?
I really love nursing. It's my calling, and this is what I've dreamed and ever since I was a little girl, and for that reason, that's why I started as a volunteer. Before even becoming a nurse, I had to volunteer to find which pathway for me to take, and I chose adult nursing, and I enjoyed throughout.
You're from Uganda originally?
Yes, from Uganda.
And you've been you were a nurse for 12 years before this happened. Were all 12 years at the St Helier Hospital?
Yes.
So you're desperate to get back to doing the job that you regard to be a calling, right?
Yes.
Okay, St Helier, NHS, give this woman her job back. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. This is an affront to decency. This is an affront, an assault on justice. It really is. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming in, and let us know how that meeting, when is it again?
On the 9th.
All right, you let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
If it goes against you, let me know. Seriously, we're going to take up your case. Jennifer Melee, folks, this is a story of our times. I don't know about you, but it makes me angry and sick. Let this woman get back to doing what she loves doing. It's an important job. She hasn't done anything wrong. Let her go back to work. NHS, St Helier, Royal College of Nursing. Take up her cause. Stand up to racism. Well, how about you stand up to racism? Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give us a ring. Let me know what you think about her story. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about royal rents, peppercorn rents. That next. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about royal rents. Of course, there's been a lot of drama about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as we must now call him. I've got some other names that I'd like to call him. Don't ring in and give me the names that you'd like to call him, because this is a family show. But Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the Andrew formerly known as Prince. So he's been paying this peppercorn rent, a few £100 a year for Royal Lodge. Massive, great place in Windsor Great Park. And people go, oh, why is he getting away with this? It's not fair, you know, it's wrong. Well, he's getting kicked out of there now anyway. He's going to live in Sandringham. That will be reclaimed for the royal estate, the Crown estate. But now it turns out, we learn that Prince William and Kate, they've got a new family home, Forest Lodge. They used to live in Adelaide Cottage, all on the Crown estate, which is these amazing sort of countrified lands near Windsor. All owned by the royal family. The Crown estate is owned by the royal family, but it's sort of, it's also owned by the state. So the profits from the Crown Estate, the Royal Windsor Great Park, including these magnificent properties that pepper that stretch of land, the profits go back to taxpayers. So there's a serious case for saying, look, these people shouldn't be getting peppercorn rents. They should be paying full rents, because this is about taxpayers getting value for money. They're looking after themselves. Meanwhile, you know, we hear that the king, you know, is virtually said to be the first ever sovereign billionaire. He may not be quite worth that much, but he's certainly worth in the high hundreds of millions of pounds. His tax affairs are pretty dubious, pretty cloudy. We're not quite sure. It is felt he doesn't pay same kind of a tax as the rest of us, so perhaps he should. But you got William and Kate. They used to live in Adelaide Cottage. They've just moved into the rather magnificent Forest Lodge. You've got Edward and Sophie. They live in the 120-room bag shop. 120 room? So have you seen the site? You've seen this place, Bagshot Park, where they live in? You know, a small family living in that. Look at it. I mean, look at it. It's obscene. Anyway, pays a peppercorn rent. There's somebody called Princess Alexandra. No, me neither. No, apparently, I think she's the late great Queen's cousin. She lives in Richmond Park, which again is a royal Crown Estate area. And she pays on this magnificent stucco mansion, which is worth probably £50 million. She pays £225 a year rent. I would suggest that this has got to stop. It sounds to me that with these peppercorn rates that they charge each other to live in great splendour for very little money, that the royals are ripping off the people. Let's speak to social and political commentator Chloe Dodds. Welcome, Chloe. It is time we started getting value for our money. These people, it's not like they're paupers. They should pay proper rents for these mansions, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Andrew has opened many cans of worms with all of the drama that he has brought to the royal family, and they probably thought that they've sort of drawn a line under it now, but now we're hearing that there's going to be an inquiry into not just what has happened with where Andrew was living, but all of the other places in the Crown Estate where you've got royals living for what seems like very, very cheap, and it's been kept quite private from us in the past. The part of Andrew's lease where it said a peppercorn rent, the part of the document that was actually given to MPs before, they sort of Tipex that part out in the past.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
So that we couldn't see that, because it is ridiculous, and they knew surely that if taxpayers and the British public saw that it would infuriate them. And now it's seeming like it wasn't just the case for Andrew, but it is the case for a lot of them as well. And as you say, Kevin, this money that is made as profit from the Crown Estate then goes back to the taxpayer. Maybe we wouldn't need so many ridiculous tax hikes in the budget. We'd have a little bit more wiggle room if the royals actually paid proper rent. And people understand that the royals, that they live extravagant lives. We get that, okay? We're not expecting them to live in some sort of council house and to wear clothes from Primark. Sure, we understand that, but there are some times where it really feels like they're starting to take the mick a bit. And I think here, when you see someone is living for 225 quid a year in Richmond Park, and then you've got this other property, 120 bedrooms that Prince Edward is in, and it sounds like he doesn't have to pay anything either. He, just like Andrew, paid an upfront
He's got it.
amount.
He gets it rent free, Chloe.
I know. Who needs 120 rooms? This is absolutely ridiculous. What on earth do you do with 120 rooms? Why don't you live in one part of the house and then make some money out of the rest of the house? I mean, for example, if you look at places like Blenheim Palace, you'll have the family living in one small part of the house, but the rest of it, people can come and visit. They buy tickets every single day to come in, and it makes a load of money. Why aren't we doing that there?
Yeah, exactly right. Now, it looks like Andrew, who's going to have to make his way to live in Sandringham, well, they always call these places cottages. Most of us will call them mansions, but he's going to be living up there. He was going to get £500,000 for being booted out early. Again, you know, why? Well, you know, these people are just like feathering their own nest with all this money. You know, if you or I got kicked out of our rented accommodation, we wouldn't expect £500,000 compensation for having to move. I gather this cottage that he's going to get in Sandringham, you know, hair shirt existence, you know, he'll have to ride bicycles and do his own washing. Oh, no. Going to have a full staff of servants and cooks and all that kind of stuff. These people, I mean, they are literally entitled, well, not Andrew Mountbatten Windsor anymore, but they are literally entitled. But I also think that they are entitled in the larger sense of the word, in the broader sense of the word. You know, I know that, so for example, Edward and Sophie, they moved into their massive Bagshot Park in 2007, and they paid £5 million up front, proving that these people, they're not broke. You know, they got plenty of money. Anyway, part of the deal was they don't have to pay rent on this. So look at it. Look at it. If you're watching on TV, I mean, it's like the Versailles Palace. And they're 120 rooms for a small family, and they're not paying any rent on it. Princess Alexandra, as I say, is living in a fabulous Richmond Park mansion, £225 a month. William and Kate pay what they call market rent on this Forest Lodge. No. These people are wealthy people, and this system, in my view, has to stop. Wealthy people live in great houses, and here's what they do. Like other grown-ups, they buy their properties. Members of the royal family are adults, grown-ups. They cannot be treated like children like this anymore. They've got to pay their way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, Kevin, they are not strapped for cash. If they're able to, for example, pay £5 million up front, I could understand if, as a royal, because being a royal is your job, you don't have another side job that's bringing you income, you have absolutely no cash in the pocket to pay rent, to live and do your royal duties. I would understand. But clearly, these people have plenty of different income streams, and they should have to pay rent like the rest of us. And this is going to really frustrate people at a time when not only do we have a cost of living crisis and people are seeing more and more money coming out of their pay packet in taxes, but people in particular are fed up of paying people who aren't working and paying their fair share. It doesn't matter if it's royals or if it's people who have come across on boats or if it's people who are benefiting from Rachel Reeves splashing the cash on benefits and making people pay more in taxes. Consequently, people are sick of the human psyche hates unfairness. When we see unfairness, that really infuriates the human brain, and this is going to really annoy people. People have had a fairly ambivalent view to tax money going to royals in the past because although there have been different calculations, people generally feel that it usually balances out when you take into account the money we get from the Crown Estate and all of the tourism that we get as a consequence of the royal family. But nevertheless, they should contribute what they can and pay appropriate rent, else people will start to feel like maybe the royals are a drain on our finances at a time when we desperately need as much cash as we can in the Treasury.
And the King, just before he became king, for some weird financial reasons, sold Highgrove House, I believe, to the Crown or the Duchy of Cornwall, and now rents it because apparently, as the king, he's not allowed to have this. But so he managed to pocket many millions of pounds for the house that he used to own. Again, all a bit dodgy, to be honest with him. We're just watching, Chloe, the state visit of the German president. So here they are all marching into the great dining hall of Windsor. Magnificent proceedings. You remember we saw it recently when Donald Trump came here on a state visit. There's Prince William in all his gear. They all look like toy soldiers on these events, don't they? Anyway, they're filing into this magnificent banquet hall, and tonight's proceedings will cost. Bearing in mind we've just had the budget and people are struggling to get by the cost of tonight's dinner. at Windsor Castle, we're told, will cost in the region of £200,000. Isn't that special?
Well, I wish I had the money to throw a 200 grand party, but I'd be lucky to throw a 200 quid party, to be honest. It is extravagant, and we understand that the royals, they are extravagant, they live extravagant lifestyles. That's kind of what you expect from a royal family, but they need to be appropriate. So, I mean, when they had the big banquet where they invited loads of tech leaders from around the world, then it kind of seemed like it was worth the money. But 200 grand on one dinner is just starting to seem a bit ridiculous.
I agree with you. They've got to get, they always have struggled keeping up with the times, and they've got to get old Charlie and his family, they've got to get it on board that the age of deference is over. And their entitlement, their sense of entitlement to the privileged lives they lead is under scrutiny, because MPs are now officially investigating these peppercorn rents that the royals paid. So their cheapo rents looks like they will end as well. Chloe, good to have you on board, and I'll come to your 200 quid party any day of the week. That is Chloe Dobbs, social commentator and political commentator as well. What do you think about that? I mean, I don't, as Chloe said, I don't expect the royals to live hair shirt existences in hovels. But why, these people are rich. 225 quid a year for a mansion in Richmond Park? No, I don't think so. Who the hell is Princess Alexandra anyway? Queen's cousin, as I say, apparently. Right, now, let's go to break. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about Axel Rudikabana, that little piece of work who murdered that little horrible fiend, that 19-year-old monster who's in Belmarsh jail. He's the Southport killer. Apart from the fact he's behaving very badly in jail, as you wouldn't be surprised to hear, apparently he's been given sleeping pills to help him get off to sleep, slumber well. I mean, why? And the word is he might be hiding them, saving them up in order to take an overdose and commit suicide. So that's another concern. But I would have thought, why would you give prisoners sleeping pills? If you can't sleep, who cares? That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breaking news. We've just heard that Thomas Markle Sr., Meghan Markle's father, who's been in the Philippines for some time with his son, Thomas Markle Jr., who's been on this show quite a few times now. Thomas Markle is in intensive care. He's taken into hospital. He's not at all well now. Thomas Markle Jr. has told me personally that he's always feared that this might be his dad's last Christmas. Let's hope it's not. But I think the reason the world will watch this story will be, will Meghan react in any way? She hasn't spoken to him since just before her wedding, when she basically cut him off, divorced him from her life, because he had the temerity to talk to them and do some pictures with the paparazzi photographer. For that reason, she hasn't spoken to her father, her brother, her sister ever since. Will she reach out to her father, who is now in intensive care after collapsing in the Philippines? Meghan Markle's father, Thomas Markle, seriously ill. Now let's move on. Let's talk about Axel Ruder-Cabana, the Southport killer. He's in Belmarsh Jail in south-east London, where, unsurprisingly, he hasn't exactly been a model prisoner. He's in solitary confinement after chucking boiling water all over a prison guard. He's also attacked another inmate, and fellow inmates there expect him to probably spend the rest of his 52-year sentence in solitary confinement, if only for his own safety, because he's hated by prison guards and prisoners alike. But this is the story that struck me. Somebody's just come out of the jail who sort of knew him vaguely, said that he's been hiding. They fear he's been hoarding and hiding sleeping pills. They've been giving him sleeping pills, and they think he's been hiding them so that he can take an overdose at some point in a last act of control, commit suicide with these pills. Well, you know, so that's one reason to worry about this. But my big question about this was, why would you give a prisoner a sleeping pill? Well, the bloke in, what for? Who cares? Let's talk to former Met Police detective Peter Blexley. Peter, have you heard about this before? Poor prisoners suffering from insomnia being given sleeping pills. What else do they want? A cup of cocoa? Maybe some Horlicks to help them nod off at night?
Well, it is quite common for prisoners to be given medication because, of course, so many of the people who are in prison have severe mental health conditions. And so routinely medicine is often given to them to try and manage them, but also to try and keep some kind of order in the prison. Essentially, that's what the staff want. They want a level of order so that they go home safely at the end of a shift. If the prisoners take over and get control and start running the place, then the order breaks down, violence inevitably occurs, and prison officers get injured, exactly like the one who had boiling hot water thrown over them by the monster that is Axel Ruder-Cabana.
Yeah, he's 19 years old, and as I said just now, apparently he's hated by prison guards and prisoners alike. They all hate him. Apparently he's living like a tramp, never washes, never cuts his hair, so he looks like the wild man of Borneo now, in this solitary confinement cell where they fully expect, the way he behaves, him to serve the rest of his sentence. You must have come across prisoners in solitary confinement. What kind of a life is that?
Yeah, but before I get on to that, can you please add me to the list of people that hate him, along with the prisoners and the prison staff?
Join the queue, Pete. Join the queue.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't care if they hose him down once a month with a jet washer, to be perfectly honest with you, through a hole in the door. He deserves no sympathy. He deserves everything that's coming to him. And for him to be in solitary confinement, which is in itself a form of punishment, he's brought upon himself because he is such a dangerous, psychopathic monster. Nobody can be trusted to go anywhere near him because he just wants to kill and hurt people. We know this. His actions have proved this time and time again. Of course, what I don't want him to do is to be able to get a stash of sleeping pills and then end his miserable life. What I want is for him to spend many, many, many years, no, decades in fact, incarcerated, in solitary, having a thoroughly miserable, sad, pathetic existence, because that's what he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, when I asked you what it's like in solitary confinement, that wasn't a sort of be kind question. Oh, poor Axel, what must it be like all on his own in that cell? I'm just asking you as a matter of fact, what is life like if you're in solitary confinement as a prisoner?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the mentality of the prisoner and what facilities they have. There are some people who have been so dangerous in the past that they have to be incarcerated on their own, but they can sometimes have books for company, for example, or a radio, or even a television. But I think Rudabakana is so dangerous that I suspect whatever facilities he's got are pretty limited. We know he's on 30-minute suicide watch, so he will be checked every 30 minutes.
That means he has a screw, a prison officer outside his cell 24 hours a day, not the same one, obviously, checking on him every 30 minutes, which is suicide watch, yeah?
Yeah, indeed, to make sure that he hasn't taken his own life. And I'm sure that will be one of the concerns. It would be remiss of me, of course, not to mention Alice, Bibi and Elsie, and all the other, those three beautiful children that he butchered to death. And, of course, all the other people that he tried to murder. This simply is somebody who is beyond the pale, can never be rehabilitated, has to be caged and caged for the rest of their life. And if those circumstances are Spartan, if somebody regards them as cruel, well, quite frankly, I really don't give a damn. He's got what he deserved. It's absolutely all been brought upon himself by himself. And I truly hope that his existence is sad, lonely, and utterly miserable.
Me too. I'm sure most people would agree with that after what he did that terrible day in Southport. But I don't know where you stand on this, Pete, but I suppose some people would say, well, why do we go to all this effort, 24-hour watch and checking on him every 30 minutes and keeping him on all his own and all that effort? Wouldn't it be easier to just bring back the death penalty? Because if anybody deserved it, it's him. But do you feel that in some way to spend your life in solitary confinement day after day after day for 52 years is worse than a death sentence?
He won't get out at 70 either if he lives that long.
Yeah.
He will never come out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
The only way he will come out of prison is in 6 planks of wood. Yeah. Absolutely guaranteed. Yeah. And I completely get if people are either shouting at their laptops or shouting at the radio tonight going, Peter, you've got this completely wrong. We should just stick a noose round his head and make him take the drop. I completely respect and get that point of view. And believe you me, people like Rudabakana really challenge my thinking. But the punishment is that lifelong incarceration, decade after decade after decade, never tasting freedom, every day being confronted by the results of your actions. And if we look at people like Harold Shipman or Fred West, for example, there's a couple of monsters for you. Neither of them could face the incarceration, so they took their own lives. They were given what some would say is an easy way out. So I'm in favour of a whole life incarceration, and quite frankly, if it's as miserable can be, then I'm absolutely fine with that.
Yeah, and I must say, to go back to our original point, I must say that I would just say, you can't get to sleep, Axel? Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Enjoy your insomnia, don't care. But I do get your point as well. In the end, you got to run a prison and you got to keep the inmates as docile as possible, I guess. I mean, I get this. I'm not massive on the. I don't really have any strong feelings about the death penalty. Do it or don't. I see more and more cases where I think, why don't we put this guy to death? Why don't we execute them? But when I think about that guy, Rudy Cabana, day in, day out, the sheer drudgery of being in a cell on your own, 52 years, as you say, probably 60 years. He'll probably top himself at some point anyway, but before then he will have had one hell of a bad time, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Peter, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Peter Blacksley there, former Met Police detective. Should they give sleeping pills to prisoners like him? 03444991000. Should we put people like him to death? Or, you know, there is, although it costs us money and a lot of work, as we've just discussed, there is a case for saying it is a worse punishment to spend all your days on your own staring at walls, day in, day out. That is a hell of a punishment. What do you think? 03444991000. Let's go to break. I want to play you that video from Jeffrey Epstein's Pedo Island when we come back. So stick around and we'll see if we've got time for a call or two as well. So lots still to come. Stay where you are.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to welcome to the, by the way, in 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes, is taking your calls, 03444991000. You know what we're talking about. Get on the blower. Send us a WhatsApp voice note if you prefer, but it's always good to talk on Talk, so get on the phone, let's have a chat, or you can send us a message. I'll read some of those out. Now, that's 872 222 plus talk if you want to send us a text or something. Anyway, welcome to the show now from the New Culture Forum, a historian, expert on so many things, but he's also a royal expert. So welcome to the show, Rafe Heidel-Manku. Oh, are we doing? Oh yeah, I'm going a bit early, aren't I? What am I doing? I'm just wishing my life away. Well, look, never mind the calls. Let's play that video from Jeffrey Epstein's island, shall we? I've always been intrigued by this island. It's in the middle of the Caribbean. It's near the Dominican Republic. Never seen. These are the first real pictures of it. Now, I guess that looks kind of all right in a hideous kind of way. Now, look at this. This is some sort of dental chair, and on the walls are face masks, male face masks. What on earth is that about? Back to that room. What else have we got in this? Let's keep moving, shall we? We've done this room. There we go. There's the island. There's an overall view of the island. It looks kind of all right. But there's something sort of weird and soulless about it. And there's that kind of weird temple thing somewhere, which you wonder what the hell that was. It's just not quite, you know, it's supposed to be a holiday paradise, but it doesn't shape up, does it? So these are the closest, most sort of intimate pictures we've ever seen of Pedo Island, as they call it. He used to fly all his VIP male friends down there on the Lolita Express, including, of course, Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, as he was then, but is now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. I think, is this the weird temple thing at the end? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Look at this. What the hell is that building? What is that? What is that? What went on there? It is the most sort of inhospitable Caribbean island that I've ever seen. You know, appropriately sinister. So he bought this with his mysterious billions. He used to fly his friends down. And I think there's some stuff with there's a sort of beach there. That looks kind of all right, doesn't it? You know, I suppose, you know, I've seen worse places, I suppose, but there's something soulless, clinical, not right about it, and that sort of fits in with what we know, isn't it? Look at it. And I think there's some stuff with around the swimming pool and stuff. Will we get into that? So these are the best close-ups we've ever seen of this island. There's the kind of domestic area. But I mean, you know, think about that. A dental chair with walls covered in male face masks. I mean, this room in itself is sort of weird, isn't it? It's called Little St. James. It's part of the American, look at that room, part of the American Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands. Little St. James, big, sinister place, I think. I just thought it'd be interesting to have a look at those. So there you go, Jeffrey Epstein's Pedo Island, up close and personal, like you've always wanted. Right, let's go to break. When I come back, we finally will speak to royal expert and cultural historian from the New Culture Forum, Rafe Heidel-Manku. I want to talk about Meghan's dad, and I also want to talk about wokery, corporate wokery. The Jaguar company has been in a lot of trouble over it. We'll talk about that after the 9 o'clock news, so stay tuned, stick around, see you in a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, taking your calls in about 20-25 minutes. 03444991000. At this stage, I was going to talk to cultural historian, social commentator from the New Culture Forum, Rafe Heidel-Mankoo, about wokery, corporate wokery. Jaguar has just ditched the genius behind the pink rebranding of the company that sent it into free fall and turmoil. Another example that proves in business, if you go woke, you go broke. We'll bring you some other examples of companies that have gone close to the edge by, for some reason, self-harming with this nonsensical wokery that no one wants. What is the matter with them? We'll talk about that in a minute, because Rafe, as I say, is a royal expert as well. So this is quite convenient and helpful for us, because welcome to the show, Rafe, by the way. Rafe Heidel-Mankoo from the New Culture Forum. What we've just learnt, Rafe, is that Meghan Markle's dad, Thomas, has gone into intensive care after being rushed to hospital for emergency surgery near his home in the Philippines. He moved to the Philippines some time ago with his son, Thomas Markle Jr., who's come on this show several times while they've been out there. Thomas Markle Jr., in my last conversation with him, it was a couple of months ago, said that he feared this might be his dad's last Christmas, and like so many of the rest of us, lamented the fact that Meghan hasn't talked to her poor old dad, who's now, I think, about 81, yes, since just before the wedding, their fairy tale wedding, because Thomas Markle Jr. was living in Mexico then, had the temerity to pose for some pictures and talk to the press, and she didn't like that, and she hasn't spoken to him since. I know he's very heartbroken about this. Meghan's busy all over the telly right now. Family Christmas. She's just released her dreadful seasonal special of With Love Meghan, a load of cooking and making Christmas crackers. And it's a time of year for family and friends. Well, not for her family, because she hasn't spoken to her brother Thomas Markle, or her sister Samantha Markle, or her father Thomas Markle Sr. for something like 6-7 years. Hasn't spoken to them at all. They've been completely cut off. One would hope, Rafe, that at this time, this critical time for a man who's suffered, I believe now, a heart attack and 2 strokes, and is in hospital, having undergone serious surgery in the Philippines, one would hope that Meghan would finally call her dad. What do you think?
I think hope is the right word for it. I mean, we know that they've been estranged, but there surely is no other time more pertinent to be with your father than on his, potentially on his deathbed. And his doctors have said that his life is in imminent danger. And as you quite rightly said, Meghan has put out this new sort of commercial Christmas film or documentary. This time of Christmas, more than any other, is a time to be with your family, with your loved ones. Thomas Markle, who, as you say, is 81, he long feared he would never get to see his grandchildren within his lifetime. I would say it behooves now Meghan to make sure that doesn't happen, to at least go there on her own. Ideally go there with her children so that they can actually meet their grandfather. And who knows what effect that might even have on him, although obviously things are so dire for him at that moment. This is a man who clearly, as you said, he's done nothing wrong. He simply was a person who wasn't really au fait, wasn't used to dealing with the paparazzi. He made a deal he thought made sense, and he's been punished ever more for that by a couple who seem to think that they are the epitome of tolerance and love and understanding. Well, we judge people by how they treat those nearest to them, and in this respect, obviously, they'll be both found hugely failing. I think it will be unforgivable if Meghan doesn't go to her father's bedside at this most dramatic time, and of course her popularity with the public would soar if she did that.
You're absolutely right, Rafe, but I suspect, knowing her, it's a forlorn hope. Don't forget that Thomas Markle Sr. and Meghan were very close when they were kids. He was a lighting man in Hollywood, was quite well-to-do, quite financially comfortable, so he brought her up in some style, and they were very close. And I know he's heartbroken because Thomas Markle Jr., his son, is a friend of this show, comes on a lot, and he gets very angry about it. Now, you've got to examine the weirdness of the way this has unfolded. Now, since that fallout, as you so rightly say, due to a man who doesn't understand the media, frankly, he got conned by a sharp-talking paparazzi guy into posing for some stupid pictures that said a few things. Look, you know, I'm in the business. I know how it goes. If people don't know what they're doing when they're confronted by the media, they tend to get talked into doing things they regret. And that's what happened here. She's shown no forgiveness for this. Hasn't spoken to him since. And here's the weirdness. And of course, because of that, he didn't go to her wedding, their wedding, the fairy tale wedding back in, was it 2018 in Windsor? And this is the weirdness of it, Rafe. Harry has never, ever met his father-in-law, and as you just alluded to, of course, Lilibet and Archie, the two kids, have never met him either. And I know, from talking to Thomas Markle Jr., his great hope is to see his grandchildren before he passes on from this existence, from this life. And perhaps now, maybe, just maybe, at least he might see his daughter again. I hope she does this because, as I say, I actually watched the festive edition of With Love Meghan today. That's 60 minutes out of my life I'll never get back. And it's full of, when your family come and you make them the food that they love to show how much you love them. I mean, the hypocrisy oozed out of every pore of that programme. She needs to do something finally, show some humanity about her poor old dad at this time. Thomas Markle's saying it's a blood clot on his brain, and the doctors have told him that his dad is in, and I quote, his life is in imminent danger. Get on the phone, Meghan, at the very least.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And I would say, you know, you can tell that the level of insincerity and performative art around much of Meghan's appearance of being loving and accepting and tolerant to others, of course, with relation to her father. But of course, I would hope that Prince Harry is trying to at least be some sort of force for good in this. We know, of course, now he seemingly regrets the distance, the chasm between him and his father. We know the king, of course, still undergoing cancer treatment. Prince Harry went immediately to his father's side. Well, not immediately, but very soon after that diagnosis. To see him. He surely should be one of those saying to Meghan, come on, put this to the side. This is a time for forgiveness and a time for family. I mean, if I were Harry, I would go there on my own, actually, to my father-in-law's bedside to try to act as some sort of mediator and see if something can be brokered at this very late stage. It's all very tragic, and it's also terribly superficial and unnecessary on the part of the Sussexes.
Now, she carries on as she always has, and I know, having spoken to Thomas Markle Jr., that what the family consider is that, you know, she is one of the world's most enthusiastic social mountaineers, and she's reached the top of the social ladder in her view. She's got a royal title, she's married to a prince, and Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle, indeed Thomas Markle Sr., think that maybe they're just a bit too blue-collar for her these days. They don't fit in with her new prestigious and snobbish new life. That's what they feel. Well, if she does not do something, at least, the very least, phone him or something, the world will see, I think, a very heartless woman. You've got to phone your dad, Meghan. It looks like, you know, he's in deep trouble. He really is. As Thomas Markle Jr. said, he suffered a heart attack, two strokes, and he's just been through an earthquake. Thomas Markle Jr. saying, well, I hope he survives this. But the doctors have told him his life is in imminent danger. So we wish Thomas Markle Sr. all the very best, and we hope that Meghan shows some humanity in his hour of need. Well, let's move on to what I wanted to get you on about in the first place, Rafe. And I want to talk about wokery, if I can. And this is Jaguar, you remember, had this weird rebrand. Suddenly, the stylish, classic British car that we've all known and loved, Prestige motor, was rebranded with this weird pink advert and all these strange models and these concept cars that didn't really look anything like Jaguar at all. That one's not pink, but there were some pink ones as well. Look at that. I mean, and then there are some very strange models, and they basically said, be different, don't go with the crowd, or something like that. And ever since then, Jaguar's fortunes have gone into free fall. The company's in turmoil. Anyway, on Monday, the guy who was behind the reimagined Jaguar event, which was at the Miami Art Week in December 24. He's a guy called Jerry McGovern. Apparently, according to reports, he was marched out of the office because Jaguar have realised this is a disaster. My question to you is, why do companies do this? We saw it with Bud Light in America, where they hired Dylan Mulvaney, a bloke in a dress who calls himself a woman, and they thought, this will make us groovy. Bud Light is the working man's blue-collar beer, biggest beer in America, owned by a huge company called Anheuser-Busch. This rebrand was so disastrous for Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch that the company nearly went bankrupt. They had to rapidly come up with a new commercial with good old boys drinking it on the back of a veranda in the deep south, and they just about survived. But, we can all see what Jaguar did, what Bud Light did. We can all see it's mad, and yet they do it. It's a sort of self-harming corporate wokery. In other words, it's like corporations get infected by the woke mind virus and self-harm by rebranding in a way that they think is modern but just alienates their customers. Why do they do it?
They do it simply because, as you said, they've been victim to the long march through the institutions as everyone else has. This has happened because, of course, people who are now in these woke corporations have been educated and have gone through the far left indoctrination camps, or the woke madrasas that I call our modern universities. And they've come out of that radicalized, and they've gone into HR departments in corporations, which have embedded a lot of this nonsense about DEI and ESG and corporate responsibility. And the older people, the CEOs and others, feel that their company will be judged if they're not deemed to be progressive and woke. So we call this now woke capitalism. This is the new prevailing orthodoxy in the corporate world. Milton Friedman, the great economist, famously said that the only concern of a corporation is creating profit for its shareholders. Well, that's gone right out of the window. Now you have what's called stakeholder capitalism. You have to consider the environment. You have to consider the lifestyle of people who might be in the vicinity of one of your manufacturing places. I mean, all sorts of nonsense with regards to what the duties and obligations and fiduciary duties are of a corporation. It's also the case that what happened, particularly say in this country, but also in America, is around 2011, the coalition government with Vince Cable as leading the charge for business brought in this document called Women on Board, and they said, well, we must have more women represented on our boards. Never mind the fact that there weren't enough qualified women in corporations to come on these boards. we need to have representation. And so suddenly all of these very well qualified men were skipped over for promotion, and there were a lot of women who simply weren't ready yet for promotion to these high levels, and they came on the boards. I mean, the most obvious example in recent times was Dame Sharon Rose, I think her name was, who was the CEO of John Lewis. Now, this was a woman who was previously working as a civil servant in the government, and she was parachuted into heading up one of our most successful and biggest corporations with none of that experience. And what a surprise, she became the short-lived CEO in history, was beginning to drive the company into the ground, profits completely hemorrhaging. And, I've no proof of this, but of course the fact that she was black and a woman may have played a role in that. Difficult to see a white male from the civil service being put into that sort of a role. And since she's gone, the business has returned to productivity. Again, this is the prioritization of identity over excellence and competence.
And do you remember Nike, not so long ago, a couple of years back, to advertise their new range of sports bras, used blokes, what they call them trans women, you know, blokes in dresses. Now, these are sports bras. You would have thought, well, the logical route to promote this wonderful product would be women, because you don't actually manufacture or create sports bras for blokes, do you? But they had to get trans women, men. And also, this was a shocking one, I thought. This was Costa Coffee. You may remember, again, not so long ago, 2023, a couple of years ago. They get Costa Coffee, and they got this sort of kind of Art Deco-y type image. And it's a Costa Coffee, Costa Express, and it's a sort of guy, like a surfer dude, and he's got a coffee there, and you look at him and he's got mastectomy scars. So this is a woman who's had her breasts taken off to look like a man, and they're on this advert with mastectomy scars. What is that about? That's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it just boggles the mind that here you have multi-billion-pound corporations making themselves deliberately poorer, hurting themselves in order to advance a far-left ideology. I mean, we now have CEOs of companies used to be, within our living memory, you know, like generals, like field marshals leading forward their corporations without fear, progressing onwards. Now they seem to be beholden to the sorts of ridiculous gobbledygook you only heard in sort of the Ivy League towers in academia, things you learn at Berkeley University or at SOAS or the LSE. These concepts have infiltrated, and it seems as if the CEOs today are forever taking the knee rather than standing up for their companies and leading forward, and they're so fearful of the online reaction to whatever they do, not realizing that actually that only 8% of the country identifies as far left. The majority of the country know that this is all nonsense. They can see it's nonsense. A lot of this is also performative as well. Places like Costa and others, I think, they put out these adverts thinking, well, this will convince people that we're being woke without actually doing any fundamental changes to the company. This is called woke washing, a way to appear being progressive when actually you're just putting out some very outrageous and outlandish adverts and publicity.
Yeah,
but
they assume that, as you implied just now, Rafe, that they assume that we all love wokery. It just makes me wonder what goes on in the boardrooms. Right? Okay, we've got any good ideas about how to promote our coffee? Yeah, let's get a guy or a girl with some mastectomy scars on, pretending to be a boy. How are we going to promote these new sports bras? Let's get some blokes to promote them. This is almost disturbing, this thought process. And, we reasonably normal people in Civvy Street, we look at this, as soon as these commercials come out, we go, well, that's going to cause serious trouble. Oh, I see. The face of Bud Light, the beer of good old boys down in the deep south, is now a trans woman. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? Oh, Jaguar, get rid of the old classic cars. Let's get some weird looking models. Oh, that's going to work. Mastectomy scars, sports, but it's almost disturbing that they can't see what, I'm trying to think of a better way of putting this, but what normal people can see.
But this is exactly the same mentality that saw them completely befuddled when we won the Brexit vote. It's exactly the same mentality when Trump got elected. The ruling elites of all these institutions simply couldn't understand it, because within their echo chamber, within W1, within the Wall Street, what's the Madison Avenue in New York or wherever, these views predominate. And also what you find, of course, this has happened for the last 10 years now, young recruits into these corporations have been mentoring the older people in these institutions, rather than actually going the other way around and the experienced people teaching the younger people. They've been taken on a journey. So the young have indoctrinated the older established figures within these corporations. And this is the only correct way to think. This is the progressive way. And so what they've done, I mean, Jaguar, classic example. Jaguar isn't Tesla. Right, Tesla is a futuristic brand, so you would expect them to come up with this sort of a thing. Jaguar, it's natural for a heritage brand to evolve, but it hasn't evolved. It's had a revolution, and it's discarded everything to do with its past. Same thing again with Bud Light. Bud Light was framed around the frat boy. Used to be called redneck soda.
Yeah.
And what do to your core elements? You basically bring aboard exactly the type of person who would repulse.
Yeah, exactly right. And you're right, Rafe. You touched upon it. It's the advertising industry, which in my youth used to be a ruthless business aimed at one thing: flogging products. Now their aim seems to be to impose on long-suffering customers a kind of woke ideology. You know, what we know that fact is it that I think something like 7% of British people are people of colour, and yet in TV commercials 40% of people are people of colour. You know, there's the adverts now seem to be promoting an ideology and painting a picture that these young groovy executives on Madison Avenue and over here in London want to paint. This is what they want the world to be like, as opposed to what the world is actually like. And I think that distorted picture, that distorted vision is counterproductive. People are repelled by these adverts and don't buy the products.
Well, Michael Jordan, the famous American basketball player, put it very well. He was asked, why doesn't he get involved in any of these social justice campaigns? Why wasn't he vocal at BLM and the political issue? And he said, because conservatives buy sneakers too. And that, he understood. Why would I alienate the majority, perhaps, of the purchasing public by taking a stance? I mean, it doesn't make any commercial sense. This is why this is such a ridiculous thing. Corporations and advertisers should get out of the world of politics if they want to maximize their profits. That's one of the reasons you've got BBC and Channel 4 with declining viewing figures and people not willing to pay the license fee because, you know, we never knew what the two Ronnies thought about politics. We never knew what any of the historic, you know, celebrities thought about anything.
Right. Exactly. Right.
But once you do, you immediately divide people. And so suddenly the BBC has lost a core part of its audience, particularly because older people watch the BBC and they're now leaving it because they don't want to have to see, you know, lesbians in wheelchairs in every soap opera that they go and see. Nothing against lesbians in wheelchairs. If you want to have one or two, that's fine. But when every show seems to think it has to meet the quotas for everything,
exactly,
you do get the impression. And actually, we just had polling out showing that ethnic minorities feel that white people are underrepresented in these sorts of things, advertising and television and so forth.
Because they sort of are.
Because they are. No, because they are.
They project a distorted image of what Britain, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, what these countries are actually like. That isn't going to sell your products. It's again, it's insane. Who can work it out? But I think we've gone some way to doing it, Rafe. And thank you very much for your help with Meghan Markle, but also with the curse of corporate wokery. The brilliant New Culture Forum historian Rafe Heidel-Manku there. Let's go to break, come back, take some of your calls. I've got messages, I've got WhatsApp voice notes, I've got everything, so stay exactly where you are. Back in a moment.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Switchboard exploding, but you can still get your oar in. 03444991000. Send us a message if you like. You have to put 87222 plus talk in, I believe. Also, we've got WhatsApp voice notes. Should we go to one of those first before we go to the phone? Let's do that. Let's listen to Paul on the licence fee, the BBC licence fee.
Hi Kev, just a quick one. You can watch reruns of Minder on ITV4 because it's not live TV transmission, so I don't know why you got his collar out for that. Defund the BBC, Kevin. I cancelled mine years ago. Won't support their left-wing twaddle.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's that easy, but I know what you mean. There is this sort of stuff as long as you don't... but I think something about if you don't watch live on BBC or something like that. Anyway, that's apparently what he was doing, watching old episodes of Minder because he's of that kind of age. It's a tragic story, poor old boy. 69 years old, had dementia. Gets caught, and the BBC is going to get £26 of his money because it's getting a victim surcharge. £26 to the BBC from an old pensioner with dementia. Isn't that special? 03444991000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Janice in Essex. Hello, Janice.
Hi, Kevin. Me again.
Yeah, I know. That's all. It's always good to hear from you.
Braces. Can't see you anymore.
I haven't got any. Oh no, you can't. I'm not wearing them today. I'm not wearing them today.
I'd be too dangerous. So I have to resort to talking to you.
Okay.
And I thank you for taking my calls. I want to ask you one very serious question.
Go on.
I'm trying to be light-eyed. I do try. But do you think Putin means what he says when he doesn't care if Europe goes to war with him?
Not really.
Trump is giving up on us.
No,
and he's certainly giving up on Starmer.
I don't. Well, you know, Putin. You can take most of the stuff he says with a pinch of salt. He says I'm ready. He says I'm ready for war with Europe. No, he's not. He doesn't want to go to war with Europe.
Do you think he isn't?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He can't even beat Ukraine on its own. He's not doing very well in Ukraine.
We've lost America, haven't we? Starmer's made sure.
We'll have to do it ourselves then, won't we? I mean,
they're backing Farage. He's my MP.
Is he? Oh, you're in Clacton, right?
Yeah, I am. But he's never come here because it's all full of Labour now. Nobody wants him.
Nobody wants
who?
We
can't even see him.
Nobody wants Farage?
No.
Why don't you want Farage?
Because London chucked all local people out, cheap rent, and now they're all gone Labour. This town has been 20 years since I've been here, Conservative.
Okay, all right,
and now it's gone.
Yeah?
Now it's gone.
Okay.
They don't want him here.
If that's what you've... I thought he was popular in Clacton, but you say...
He's not.
Is he not? Is he not? That's interesting. So are people...
Because his girlfriend bought the house. He put that in her name. Because if he bought it under his name, it'd get demolished.
Well...
He's not welcome.
Well, the house might get demolished.
So anybody thinks he is, he's not.
Okay. Well, I mean...
I'm no lover of any of them, by the way.
No, but, I mean, are you telling me... I find it very, very hard to believe that if there was an election tomorrow, or indeed in 2029, that Clacton is going to... Clacton's not going to vote Labour. Clacton will not vote Labour, Janice. I'll guarantee you.
They will.
They
Honestly,
will not. They won't. If Clacton are going to vote Labour, they must be insane.
Well, they will.
Why?
Because London has shut
Well, because Keir Starmer's doing... Is that because Keir Starmer's doing such a great job of running the country?
Oh, God. Well, look, all we can hope for...
You're not going to vote Labour, are you?
Years, we get them...
Would you vote Labour?
No.
No, exactly. And so, but the people, I'll tell you one thing. I know Clacton. My parents lived in Frinton. I know Clacton.
Oh, I love Frinton.
My parents, God bless their soul, but let me tell you, they would. The people of Clacton will not vote Labour. They never would.
No, they wouldn't. They will now.
I don't think.
It was neck and neck.
No, they won't. They will not, Janice. Right, okay.
I think they will.
I'll bet you 10 quid they don't, all right?
I'll bet you 20.
20, you're on. All right, Janice, that's a deal. We've metaphorically shaken hands on that. 20 quid. I'll remember that. Listen, I've got to move on, Janice, but excellent call as always. Good to talk to you. That was the great Janice from Essex, as you may have noticed. We've got time, I think. Let's talk to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
How you doing?
All right, mate. Reform.
£100 to your favourite charity, but we won't discuss that, obviously.
Well, that message you sent the other day, you do understand journalistic legalities. This isn't about not telling the truth. There are things you can't say. You can't say things.
I know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, right. You want to talk about reform, though?
Yeah, but forget that. I want to talk about something more important than that to start with. Were you at the game?
What game? Yesterday? No, I was on air. You mean Fulham almost getting it?
Yeah.
No, I was on air. You can imagine how thrilled I was when we were 5-1 down at half-time. I could hardly believe the second half, but I couldn't have it on the telly because it would distract me too much. But I was looking at the control room and they were all jumping around like dervishes. So I've watched the game since. Hell of a game, but we didn't quite win. Let's talk about reform, Chris.
Right. Well, I did go to conference because I wanted to meet people and see what things were like.
Yeah.
I do believe there are some decent people in the Conservative Party that could come across, but they'll have to think about, and they'll probably be discussing it already, because there's going to be a timeline on that. There's definitely not going to be a Tory 2.0. That ain't happening.
Do you think, Chris, let me ask you this. Do you think that in terms of, we saw, I think, 3 Tories come over to the reform cause this week, including my friend Jonathan Gullis, who works here from time to time, Tory MP, former Tory MP, now joined reform. So 3 joined, and we know about Danny Kruger, we know about the others, we know about Dame Andrea Jenkins. Do you think that Farage has to be careful about this constant influx from the Tories, because he doesn't want to become the Tory party light, does he?
No, that's exactly right. But he does need some of the real Tories that have already come across, like Danny, like Jonathan, all right, but know the job once you're inside Parliament.
Proper politicians,
and you're governing, because the difficulty is going to be in controlling the blob. I mean, it was quite interesting today to watch IDS being questioned about this chap in Dubai that's been locked up for 17 years so far, because the bank snaffled the land back off of him, and they
where are we going with this?
Right,
are we talking about the reform and the Tories? Will there be a pact? I'm not really interested in about bloke in Dubai.
No. What I'm talking about was IDS. It said about how the Foreign Office deals with things, and he didn't actually say anything, but he raised his eyebrows, and it was a nod to, once you're there, you've got to deal with the offices that are there, as everybody refers to it. As
all right, Chris. Yeah, all right. Do you think Reform should do a deal with the Tories?
No, not at all. But there are some great brains that could come across.
I think that the Reform supporters, a lot of them say we don't want any more Tories. I think they should be more considerate about this. And I'll tell you why. It's because, for example, people like Jonathan Gullis and Danny Kruger, what these people are, in the end, the Tory party is the Reform Party is what the Conservative Party should be. The Reform Party has taken Conservative values and turned it into a party. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party, the Tory Party, has abandoned Conservative values. So Tories who come over to Reform are merely carrying on the proper tradition, political tradition of the right. So when you get good men and women like Andrea Jenkins, you get Sarah Pochin, these are good people. You get Jonathan Gullis, you get Danny Kruger. These are good people, they're proper Tories, and they see true conservatism in Reform UK. In the end, Nigel Farage is an old school Conservative, so is Richard Tice. And that's why people are coming over from the Tory party. So I think the Reform Party should be welcoming to them.
Well, they'll pick and choose, and they've got a board to do that now.
Yeah.
So it's not down to one person saying, "Oh, yeah, all right, mate, come over." It's a board now, and they will pick and choose the right people with the right qualities, with the right brains to come
But it's
across
going to get more and more are going to come over, Chris, I'll tell you that, because they can see the Tory ship sinking. Mate, I've got to move on, but thanks for another good call. Chris in Epsom. Sure, let's go to break, shall we? And when we come back, we'll talk to Herbie in Harrow, one of my great callers. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight back to the phones. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Yes, good evening, Kevin. How are you this evening?
I'm okay.
Your last caller, Janice, in Essex.
Yeah.
She needs to go to the meetings that Nigel holds and see how packed it is every time he.
I don't know quite what she was getting at there. I know Claxon quite well because my parents used to live in Frinton, and I know Claxon well enough to know that it is never going to go Labour. It's a solid right-wing constituency. Farage will keep that seat, no problem at all.
Yeah, my best friend lives there, so you know, I quite see him there, so I go there quite a lot.
Anyway, by the way, Herbie, who the hell is going to? She's going to vote Labour. Labour? You know? Oh, well, Starmer's been doing such a good job. Yeah, there you got my vote. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you want to say, mate?
Kevin, your call earlier on, or your visitor there that was expelled from the hospital because of what she said.
Oh, the lady that was Jennifer Melly. She was in the studio. Lovely lady.
Kevin, yeah, what in God's name's happening? Can't you say anything now, Dave, without being pulled up or whatever? Has the world gone completely crazy off its marbles or what?
She wasn't rude to that guy. She wasn't rude to it. She explained to him, because of her Christian faith, she didn't feel comfortable addressing him as she and her. She said, what's your Christian name? What name do you want to be? I'll call you that. And it sort of all calmed down, and the next minute she knew he's trying to hit her and calling her the N-word 3 times. So the NHS, St Helier Hospital, the Royal College of Nursing are prioritising the woke requirements of a racist jailed paedophile over the welfare of a hard-working, dedicated nurse who's done nothing wrong. It's absolutely insane, Herbie.
Well, Kevin, if it carries on like this, we'll be the laughing stock of the world. We can't allow the minority to rule the world and become a nutcase, basket case of a country, which it's already going down that road. It's just beyond belief. Kevin, somebody's got to crack before very long, before it goes completely off the rails. Absolutely.
I totally agree. I mean, this wokery, this mad wokery is out of control, and it's really, really pernicious. You know, Piers Morgan, my friend, has written a book called Woke is Dead. I went to the book launch, right, and I did say to him, what do you mean woke is dead? He said, well, it's a good title.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, after going to Piers' book launch, it was in October, middle of October, 2 days later, I covered the story here on Talk of the National Trust installing vegan tampons in all the gents' loos. So I refer that to my friend Piers Morgan. Woke is dead? I don't think so. Woke is damn well everywhere. Ask that poor nurse, Jennifer Melly. Exactly right, Herbie. It's getting to be a serious problem. Good call as always, mate. I've got to move on. Thank you very much, though. Good to talk to you as always. Herbie from Harrow there. Let's talk to Mike in Wiltshire. Hello, Mike. You want to talk about advertising?
Hi, Kev. Yeah, there was a Virgin Atlantic advert last year which it showed a female captain. Nothing wrong with that, because there's a growing number of female captains in the airline industry. You've then got a black businessman, a little old white lady who's looking a bit worried, a gay steward.
Yeah, of course.
They're ticking boxes, basically. There's one major group that they left out, and that's straight white blokes. Now, I'm a straight white bloke, and basically what they're telling me is that they're not really interested in my business.
Well, I don't think the point is, Mike, it's not. I don't think it's so much that. And by the way, I don't really care about these adverts. You know, I think they're a bit ridiculous, a bit absurd, and I don't think they achieve their purpose, which is to flog stuff, to promote products. I don't think they work. I don't care if they want to make these adverts that don't sell their products. Then go right ahead. But the reason you don't get on is because you don't tick any boxes.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, that business about the pink Jaguars. I mean, Jaguar and Land Rover need to get back to their basic products, don't they?
Well, of course. You know, we all saw that advert. These weirdos with weird hair all sitting there. I think Tilda Swinton was in the advert among others. And that very strange-looking pink car. And you think, well, where's the Jaguar? What is all this about? And it's like I said, Mike, we all knew this is going to be a disaster. The people who work for Jaguar thought it was going to be a triumph. Why are they so stupid? Why are these corporations?
I really don't know.
It's just
they're basically out of touch with their customer base, aren't they?
They completely. Well, their customer base being normal people, lost in sort of woke space. It's mad. Mike, good call. Agree with you. Thank you very much. That's Mike in Wiltshire. Should we listen to a WhatsApp voice note? This is. Let's listen to Pete, can we, on Nurse Jennifer Melly?
these unions that run for the NHS, they're quick to back up these junior doctors, aren't they? Oh yeah, they'll give them extra money and bend over backwards for them. But this nurse gets abused by an absolutely vile paedophile, and the names that he called her. You know what? It should all these nurses now need to get together and force the situation to say, we will not tolerate this. To be quite honest about it, you've got to be stupid to do that to someone that's trying to help you anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we know what's going on here. This is not, in my view, that Jennifer spoke to the press in frustration after about 2 months. Why am I out? Why won't they let me do my job? A job that she calls more than a job, a calling. She's a dedicated nurse. And they say, oh, it's because she talked to the press. It's not, I don't think. It's because she refused to call a 6-foot-tall convicted paedophile bloke by his preferred pronouns, he and she, or her and she. Yeah, she's got a right to do that, by the way, in law. This thing about pronouns, you know, oh, these are my pronouns, you want to call me, so, okay, you know, I'll try and do my best to keep you happy. But if I choose not to, I don't have to do that. There's no law that says that I must call you by the pronouns that you demand to be addressed as. So if you're a bloke and you say, you got to call me she and her, and I decide, I don't fancy it, I think I'll call you what you are, he and him, bloke. You know, you might say, oh, that's terrible, you misgendered him. Well, misgendering is not against the law. I mean, this is a kind of a weird tyranny, and it's got to stop. Before we go to break, let's listen to John on WhatsApp voice note on the BBC licence fee.
The BBC licence fee has been on the go for almost 80 years, and it's time the BBC dragged themselves into the 21st century, either with advertisements or by using subscription. If their content is that good, people will subscribe. There's too many people on 6-figure salaries for absolutely nothing, so they need the money from us idiots that have to pay it. I'm happy to say I don't pay it because I don't have a television, but I still receive the letters. But that's another story entirely.
That's a good policy, I think. The more I watch television, the more I think we're getting rid of mine. I used to be a TV critic. For 12 years, I watched about 35 hours of television again. I think I'm still mentally scarred. God almighty. I've been watching With Love, Megan, the Christmas special on Netflix. Came out today. I've been watching that today. As I said earlier, that's 60 minutes out of my life I'll never get back. Absolute dirge, absolute dirge. Thank you, John. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to the great Georgina in London.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just looking at a tweet, it says pray for Thomas Markle. That is Meghan Markle's dad, who's gone into surgery with a blood clot in the Philippines. This is a man who, since his daughter's wedding, or around about that time, suffered a heart attack. He's had 2 strokes, been through an earthquake, and now he's had serious surgery. His son, Thomas Markle Jr., has been told, your father's life is on the line. He is teetering on the edge. So pray for Thomas Markle. Will his daughter bury the hatchet and get in touch with her father in his hour of need? She hasn't spoken to him since he had the temerity to talk to the press and pose for pictures just before her wedding. She has sent him to Siberia, as it were. On the phone is someone who wants to talk about this. This is the great Georgina in London. Georgina, do you think Meghan will finally get in touch with her dad in his hour of need?
Well, good evening, Kevin. I'd love to think that Meghan would get in touch with her daddy in his hour of need, because this is a time when he will need her the most. But unfortunately, Meghan is a prolific social climber. Her family and people who've helped her get to where she is are no longer needed. She's got to where she wants to be, Kevin, and that's at the top of her social tree. And anyone who's helped her to get there, they are now defunct. She doesn't need them, and she cuts them off. She's heartless. The woman is heartless. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who has been so heartless with the family to cut them off totally and have nothing to do with them. I think it is, I mean, that for me, it is beyond, above and beyond. You just don't do that to your family, especially when her father is so ill.
How do you think, Georgina, the world will respond? I was talking earlier to Rafe Heidel-Manku about this. I think that, you know, those of us who observe the royal scene, we would hope at this point, when her father, let's face it, is close to the edge. Let's hope he pulls through, but the doctors have said it's touch and go. At this point, how do you think the world will react if she doesn't show the humanity that I and you think she should show right now, and at least get in touch with her dad? Rafe said she should get on the first plane and go out and see him. How do you think the world will react if she maintains this cold silence, this familial divorce?
I think if she doesn't jump on the first plane to go and see her dad, I think that the world will see her for what she really is, which is a cruel, heartless woman. If she can do that to her own father, then she is capable of doing anything to anyone. We've seen how she's treated people who've been very kind to her and helped her on her way up, but I really do feel that her family are an embarrassment to her, Kevin, and what she wants to be, the silver spoon duchess, born with a diadem on. You know, the fact that she wasn't born into royalty, I think that's something that she is embarrassed about.
Yeah, she feels they're a reminder, if you like, of her former lowly social status. Now, the Markles were not paupers, but they are what you might call solid blue-collar Americans. And I think she doesn't want to know about that anymore. She doesn't want to be reminded that she doesn't come from regal stock.
They are a continual reminder that she wasn't born into title. She wasn't born into that world. Now, the royal family don't have to go out to impress anyone because they are who they are. They've been born into that world, and it's something that, that's normal to them. But to someone like Meghan, like you say, she's come from a blue-collar family. But that is blue-collar is not royal, it's not titled.
Yeah. But they were comfortable. I won't say blue collar, they were solid, shall we say, middle class Americans, working Americans. She doesn't want to know about that anymore, and I think unless she gets in touch with her dad, I think the world...
She's finished, Kevin.
Yeah, they will not like that. Let's hope. She needs to show humility. I've been having the misfortune to watch the seasonal Christmas special of With Love, Meghan, this afternoon.
Well, I'm not watching that.
Well, it's all
the last one.
It's all like, oh, you're going to make this for your family. Oh, it's lovely, wonderful time, and I've got a message for my husband and my children. It's like, what about the rest of your family? And now this story is broken. Let's hope
hypocrisy incarnate. She's got hypocrisy incarnate, Kevin. She is the prolific hypocrite.
Yeah.
She will stand there. I'm not going to watch that programme. You made me watch the last one, and I've never got over
You never forgiven me. Listen, I'm giving you advice now, Georgina. Don't watch the Christmas special. As I just said, I've just watched it, and it's 60 minutes I'll never get back. Georgina, I've got to go because the show's ending, but always great to talk to you. Excellent call. I think we've got quiet time to squeeze in a last WhatsApp voice note. This is Steve on Lenny Henry.
These washed-up old celebrities joining this movement of fight reform, or the so-called right wing. Frankie Boyle, is that the same guy who used to make jokes about having Madeleine McCann under his stairs? Has he gone woke now, has he? It's just career preservation, isn't it? They think if they go woke, then they'll stay safe and they'll keep whatever shreds of their career they got going. It's absolutely pathetic, isn't it? And no one's listening anymore.
Yeah, they think it's good for their career. Good one there.